Hey, welcome and thank you for joining Courseware Administrative Setup. My name is Jocelyn. I'm a customer success consultant here at Edmentum, and I'm super excited to help you guys get started. So, without further ado, let's hop right on into that agenda. Now, this is just a quick start agenda. You'll notice that we're running a little quick and dirty because it's a 30-minute webinar and courseware is huge. So first, we're going to talk just a little bit about courseware in general, just in case you weren't in those sales meetings. Next up, we're going to discuss user roles, the different types and associated permissions. Next, we'll talk about the main parts of being an account admin, which are creating a program and some user management. Fifth, we'll discuss course section creation and enrollment. And sixth, we would usually have a Q&A here, but since this is a recording and not a live webinar, we'll skip straight on into support. So, what is courseware? Well, Edmentum's courseware is a standards-based online learning program grounded in a tradition of solid research, sound pedagogy, and applied innovation. We want to develop rigorous and relevant curriculum that challenges your students with a 21st century approach, engaging them with this interactive, media-rich content. So whether your students are falling behind, or if they're at grade level, or even advanced, we want to accommodate their unique needs. All right, so let's scoot right on in. So I am going to include this chart in a follow-up email because I don't expect you to memorize it in the few minutes that we have it up here, but we're going to take a look at it right now because I think it's kind of important to look at this. So you can see the account administrator can do everything, and we want them to be able to do everything. Program admins can do almost everything. So close. And then instructors with additional controls can do all of these things. Now, this is a weird way for me to view things personally. So I also went ahead and created this. So account administrators can do all of these things, and these are kind of the things that we're going to discuss today. And then program administrators can do all of these things in here. But it's a Venn diagram, so you can do all of this and all of this if you're an account administrator. So with all of that said, we are going to hop right into the program. I don't want to waste a whole lot of time here in a PowerPoint, and we're going to take a look. All right. Now, the first thing that I want to do is I want to come on over to the Administration Center. We're going to click that right there. And when you first come to the Admin Center, it's going to take you straight to reports. Now, this is a great place to start maybe viewing some of the reports that we'll be able to pull later, but we're not going to talk a whole lot about reports today. We're actually going to come right on over here to settings and click application. Now, one of the first things that we actually recommend that you do as an administrator is to check your time zone. We have a lot of calls in our support center that are just fixed by setting our time zone, so we want to make sure to do that. Next up, we have some learner controls. You can enable or disable messaging in notebooks, and you can choose whether or not to allow allow learners to view their current grade and their course grade. Now, the difference between current grade and course grade is current grade only includes the work that they have completed. Course grade includes everything. In some cases, we found that learners get a little bit discouraged upon viewing the course grade, or sometimes they just kind of game the system so that they get that minimum grade. If you find that that's the case and it's something that you want to discourage, please feel free to go ahead and just turn off allowing users to view the course grade. Right here, if you'd like to set Family Sensei up, we're not going to go into that today, but if you'd like to be able to set that up, you would check that right there. Here are instructor controls. Now, obviously, you want to view this kind of on a case-by-case basis. What works for most implementations may not work for your implementation. I generally recommend checking this off. If it's a smaller implementation, if you have a large implementation and you have somebody whose job it is to be in charge of this, you can leave it checked off. That's the general demarcation. Essentially what this does is it allows instructors to create courseware sections. So we remember on that slide that we saw where some of them were checked off if they had special permissions, these are those special permissions. So I like instructors to be able to do those things in my section, so I'm going to go ahead and check that. And I'm just going to hit Save Changes, and account settings have been successfully saved. Now we're going to go through the rest of these settings fairly quickly. We're going to go to Archive. This is just where you can archive certain course sections and classes and programs. So anything that you're done with but you don't want to go away forever and you'd like to be able to pull back, it's all going to be archived, right? So that's where that's going to be. Next, we can go to access control. Essentially, what this allows you to do is say, I want this program to only be able to come in through 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. in my time zone and no other time. This way, if you have a certain sort of credit recovery program or something where they have to be in chairs during a certain time of the day, you can set that. I am not going to save that because this is not technically my account. Next up, we have learner review. So essentially, this just allows learners to review courseware assessment prescription and flex assignment assessments. This says allow learners to review their answers and assessments an unlimited number of times. So if you're doing assessments, they'll be able to go through and view their assessments a bunch of times or just once. And same for programs. So if we just pop that account open, let's say yes, we can set that by program, right? So I'm going to turn that back. And then courseware test security. So this is just saying, do we want to automatically lock courseware assessments when a learner exits the test? What this will do is it will require an instructor to go in and unlock it. And that pretty much covers settings there. Now, next up, you may want to create a program. Now, there are kind of two ways that you could do it. You could do, I want to create all my users first, or I want to create all my programs first, whichever one makes more sense to you as you go through. I like to create a program first, so that's what I'm going to do. So I am going to go to programs. I'm already in programs, but I came here from settings. It's just this one right here. And then I'm going to take a look at the programs that are already here so that we can kind of talk about them. You'll notice I can't archive them. I can't archive them. And that's because it still has classes or members, right? So we want to make sure that if we ever need to archive any of these programs, there's nothing in it. So with all that said, we're going to go ahead and create a program. I'm going to call this Credit Recovery. And it's going to be delivering courseware. Now, my credit recovery program is going to include all of my high schools. That DC is 1, 2. And Cedar Ridge High School. And let's include the alternative school for good measure. Oh, and that one. There we go. So my credit recovery program has all of my high schools. Let's say I'm not 100% sure yet which program or what locations my program is going to include. I can always change it later and just include all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and save and close. And we are good to go. We have created our program. So from here, the next thing that we're going to want to do is create users. So we're going to come here and first we're going to tour batch processing and then we'll move into managing users. So I am here in batch processing. I came here by going to users and then clicking batch processing, right? All right, so I have already completed a few and you can see the status of these old ones. I can click upload right here, but let's say I'm not sure what I need to upload. This has our file format specifications here in the third tab. So location field is required. Usernames can be auto-generated if you don't include one. If you don't supply a password, the system will auto-generate that password. When uploading a file that includes existing users, their username and password must be included. All of that good stuff. I don't like looking at it like that. I like to just go ahead and open up a sample file. So that opened over here. I'm going to pull it right over. It opened up twice. There we go. All right. So I'm just going to pull these a little bit. We have first name, middle name, last name. You don't really need the middle name. You do need the first and last name. username, like they said on the last page, it can be auto-generated or I can just go ahead and include it here. We have the password. I recommend including a password just so that when you hand it out for the first time, you know what it is and then they can reset it on their own. You want to include their role here. So for example, I have an account administrator, a program administrator, an instructor, and a learner, and a bunch of learners here on this sample file. So that's exactly how you want to put it, just account administrator, program administrator, instructor, learner, right? And then status, active or inactive. So this is going to help you with licensing, right? So if you have students that aren't going to be in this semester, you can just keep them on your little import form, but you can put them as inactive, and that way they're not using up a license. Grade level, that's very important, right? You actually do need a grade level regardless of the age of the person. Sometimes you can just put A there for adult if they are a grown up. Next up, you will need an SISID. So you have SISIDs somewhere in your school. They exist. If you, for some reason, don't have an SISID, you do have a state ID. So make sure you have some sort of identification number here for the student. You can also include a federal ID if they would like, an email address, a state ID. The rest of these are kind of, they're nice to have, right? If you don't have them, it's not going to hurt anything. So I'm actually going to save this file, save as, and we're going to pretend that I've done all the work. And then I'm going to title this 722, just so that I remember. We're going to pretend that I've done all this work and I saved it as a CSV and we're good to go. And I am going to come back here and I'm going to go to upload and I'm going to click browse, learner import. Yep, right there. All right. So I'm just going to import the selected file and we're going to wait. We're going to wait. And it says this user import file has been uploaded. So we're going to monitor the progress just by occasionally clicking that, or maybe we can go and do something else. I'm going to speed up this process. I'm going to go ahead and press pause and come back when we're done. All right, and we are back, and that has been completed. Now, let's say we have right here completed with errors. What we can do is we can download this file, and this is going to be the import log file. We're going to go ahead and open that up. There we go. And we can see we had some invalid grades here. So we know that the usernames that were not created, that was because they had invalid grades. So if you see that completed with errors, you can go ahead and open that up. You may want to reach out to our support department if that happens, and they can kind of help walk you through whatever you need to do in order to fix those errors. So before we leave managing users, I want to come up to users and I want to go to manage users. And let's just take a look at what we can do. First off, we can create a single user here. So you can just click create user, fill all this in, make sure you choose their location. If for some reason you forget the location, you can always come back and edit, but you're going to want to make sure that you have that or else you won't be able to include them in a program. All right. And that's all you really need to do. Keep in mind the only things you really need are the things with the stars there. So again, we'll go back to manage users. Let me just kind of show off this search feature. So let's say I know that I have a student named Molly. All right, I found that student named Molly just by searching right there, and I can come to actions and I can click edit user. So let's say Molly forgot her password. And she's a second grader, so we have to fix that for her. She can't figure it out on her own. So we're going to come here, we're going to click reset password. We can reset that right there. Likewise, if we have that problem that I've kind of alluded to where we can't find a student, well, Molly doesn't appear to be in any elementary schools despite being a second grader. So I'm going to make sure to check off the right elementary that she's in, and she's in Cherokee Elementary. So we'll just put her in there. You can also fill in all these demographics, but we don't really need to. All right, and the users been successfully updated. Likewise, you can kind of filter down if you need. You can filter by location, by user role, by status, anything like that. All right. So next up is creating a course section. All right. So if you, the account administrator, did not allow instructors to create their own course section, you, the account administrator, or a program administrator are going to have to do this for them. So we are going to do this by going to Menu. We're going to click Manage Courses or Course Catalog. I like to come in through Course Catalog because then I can view my courses as I go through. So I'm going to go to Course Catalog. And all of the courses that I have are available here, but I can also kind of search. So let's say I want algebra. I need to create an algebra section. So I see right here I have Plato Course Algebra 1 Semester A version 6.0. In some cases, you may see Plato Course Algebra 1 Semester A version 5.0, probably not here, but in some other examples. Keep in mind you're going to want to always use the latest version. That's the version that we guarantee to be correct, that we will be going back and fixing if we find any discrepancies, things like that. So make sure you're always using the latest version. I'm going to go ahead and click it. And what this will do is it will allow me to kind of view the curriculum. And I do want to do my due diligence. I want to come through here. I want to kind of check things out, make sure that this is covering the things that I need to cover. Maybe we need to create a custom course, right? And if you would like to do that, we have another video on how to create a custom course. But again, I'm just doing my due diligence. I'm making sure that this is what I want. Now, once I'm sure that I know that it's what I want, I come back to this tab and I'm going to click New Section. And I'm going to title this. Now, you're going to want to title this really intentionally so that you can find it later. So I'm going to call this Algebra Semester A. I'm actually going to call that Algebra 1 in case I have an Algebra 2. And I am going to put the teacher's name. So I'm going to put my name right now. I'm not sure that there's a teacher named Jocelyn Thompson in here, but that's what it's going to be. I can choose to enter an end date if I would like. The start date default is today. You can also set that a little later if you would like. If you don't add an end date, the pacing, there's a feature called pacing that students have access to that just kind of tells them, hey, you're not going as quickly in this course as we would expect, right? If you don't add an end date, it won't be there. Next up, you're going to want to make sure to add your instructors. So I can search by name. Let's see, do I have a Thompson? Yes, we have a John Thompson. We're going to add John Thompson. And is there a King? Yes, we're going to add Bradley King. All right. And so I have 2 instructors for this. I can add a lot more than 2. Next up, you have some options. You can choose to lock after the end date. So if you have set an end date here, no additional work can be completed if you set this here. But I can't, that doesn't matter if I don't have an end date. So see, and it goes away if I click no end date. So I'm going to leave that as no end date. Here, you just have the section description. So you can say this is credit recovery, Thompson, Bradley. And then any student instructions. Now, sometimes we see things just like do your best. Sometimes we see YouTube videos, whatever works for you there. You can also choose to generate a self-enroll code. If you have a really, really big program, that would be the only situation in which I would recommend this. So we're going to continue on to students. And I'm going to click Browse Student Directory. I just like the directory more than anything else. So I'm going to search for my students. Let's see. I want to add that 2nd grader Molly. I can for some reason, right? And then you can filter by location, right? So if you only want students that are in Cherokee Elementary, you can do that. or only students that are in the alternative school, whatever works for you, right? I'm only going to select that one student. Ideally, you would add all of your students. Then I'm going to save the selection. And that course section now exists. So Molly will be able to log in and begin that course at any point. Now, let's say you watched all of that with horror and you were like, oh my gosh, that's going to take so much time. There's got to be a better way. Well, you do have to create your sections like that. But what you can do is you can batch enroll your students. So I'm going to come back to Administration Center. And I'm going to come, oh, nope, sorry, down to users. I always make that mistake. There's a drop down here and a drop down here, and I just get them all mixed up. All right, so we're going to go to batch processing, enroll, and I'm going to go straight on over to file format specifications. So once all of those courses have been created, let's download this sample file, open that up. What you can do is you can have the program name right here. So for example, credit recovery, you'll want it exact or else it'll get a little confused. The class name, again, you'll want it exact. And then the SIS ID of the student that you want. So if you are an Excel wizard, like I know some of you are, this will be much quicker for you. And then you'll just import it the same exact way that I showed you how to import your users. You'll just go right on over here to upload, browse, upload. It's done. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on reports specifically because reports are very specific to your needs in that moment. But one report that I did want to show you is this courseware audit report. So anytime you need just a good view of kind of everything that's been done, you just come here, you can select all, set your dates. I'm just going to leave this date right here. It's a month, and hit generate report. Now you'll see that the report is processing right now. And once again, I'm just going to go ahead and hit pause and wait for that. All right, and so we have finished that audit report. I'm going to click download now. Opens up a whole new window to download. Not sure why it does that. And I am going to go ahead and pull that over. All right, so here, and this is kind of dense, but you can see everything that your students have done. So anytime you need to submit something like, here's everything that has been done ever, here it is, right here for you. Another one that I wanted to show that is processing right now is the Graphic Learner Progress with Module Mastery report. If you are more of a visual person, if that Excel data just made your eyes bug out of your head, this one is processing. Again, we will pause and come back to it. So that Graphic Learner Progress with Module Mastery has completed its download. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that open. All right, so you see we have a list of all of our students, as well as just a total activities completed. Now, if they completed, say, 50%, the bar would be full 50%, along with the modules. You'd see their current grade and their current time on task. So, for example, you can see that Devin has spent 30 minutes, but he hasn't managed to get anything done. Maybe we need to go talk to Devin. Likewise, if you have a student halfway through the year who's got this big old zero there, well, we need to talk, Savannah. So this is a really great kind of quick report for you to pull whenever you need this sort of information. Now, mine is very empty. Hopefully yours won't look this empty because this is not a real account. This is an account where the only people doing stuff are not real people. But you can see there's some stuff in here, and this is approximately what it'll look like as you go through. The last thing that I wanted to show you guys is our fantastic support and help. So we have the Help Center right here. I got here just by clicking Help Center. And you'll see that there's all sorts of stuff in here, including what I already have going, a how to create an audit report. You can also how to filter and export users, all of that stuff. You can find all sorts of good stuff in here, especially the stuff that maybe we didn't get a chance to cover today, like the things that you may find in the Administrator User Guide, right? Not only do we have this little Help Center right here, you can also go to our support site. And you'll find that you can search for just about anything that you may need. For example, earlier I needed to learn a little bit more about user roles, which is where I found, let's see, this article where I found this fantastic spreadsheet right here. So there's all sorts of stuff in here. It's always fun to go in and just kind of take a look around and see what you can find. We also have a fantastic support team. So let's go back to that support site. Let's click Contact Us. And our support team can be found at 800-447-5286. That's 800-447-5286. That actually puts you through the generic courseware line. You can also email support@edmentum.com. They'll be more than happy to help you out with anything that you need. They are fantastic, fantastic people. If you use any of our other products, you can also find all of the numbers and emails there as well. With all of that being said, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate you working with Edmentum. And if you have any questions, I have my own information up right now. Thank you so much for joining. You have a wonderful rest of your day.